What are you saying? Hashtag Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayo Mesale, and this is a Ways exclusive, a special edition where we will be talking to one of the brightest minds, I believe, in my opinion, in Nigeria, and someone that is very passionate, about our nation. And every time I hear him speak, I just feel like, okay, oh, sometimes I feel hopeful. Most times I feel hopeless. I'll just be honest and just admit it. Again, because of the happenings that are around the country. So, without long stories, I'm here with DELE Farotimi. And you all know he's no stranger. He's a lawyer, retired. He always says retired. But again, I believe that you really cannot retire from legal matters because legal matters is really dear to the hearts of people because you truly help people as, anyone that is a legal practitioner. So I would say he's not retired, in my opinion. Thank you so much for joining me on this exclusive.
Always a pleasure being with you. Always a pleasure.
All right, so I thought in my head when I was going to have this conversation with you, where do I even start from? I remember Shayo asking that, what would the conversation, what would the topic be? I say it's very difficult to find a topic around, someone that is, that has so much wealth of knowledge and not just knowledge enough. There's so much passion around you, especially when it comes to issues around nation, right, and the happenings in Nigeria. So I just said to her, you know what, let's just discuss national concerns, all the things that have been happening in Nigeria. And that's why we're here. So I kind of like coined it, right? Renewed hope versus the current realities of Nigeria. There was a promise of renewed hope. A lot of things have happened since the general elections in February. And I don't think I've had that conversation with you. So I'm happy to be here to have that conversation. And when I look at the word hope in itself, I juxtapose that to what is happening in our nation, Nigeria, today. It's really, it's a bit sketchy in my head. So I said, okay, I'm not going to be the one to try to to understand what is happening. Why don't I speak to someone that I believe can give me a bit of clarity as to where we are? Can we truly reflect that hope in our reality in Nigeria?
Well, recently, I had so much on my mind, and I wrote, a line came into my head, and I posted that line. It was just a single one line. I said, the bed is not singing, it is bemoaning its captivity. Why would I say that? I forced myself to sit down, I wrote a poem, and I posted it. But there is a whole lot more to it, and it's probably going to be provoked to come out by the question you have not asked. When I said the bed is not singing, what I'm explaining essentially is that all the things I am doing, all these interviews, the garrulous public outbursts on multiple occasions on air, in private, they're actually in reality shouts of pain, in agony. I'm seeing the willful and wicked evaporation of hope by those who have been given the sacred trust of governing a people. Because even when you snatch it, grab it, it's still a people that we're talking about. And the willful abandonment of the interest of those people, the cavalier manner in which these people are treated, makes it absolutely difficult to speak to our objective reality with any sort of hope. Hope should be distinguished from faith. Hope should have substance. To demand hope of the Nigerian is actually to be asking faith of the Nigerian. And that is why you see a proliferation of stupid places where they claim to be worshiping God, when in reality, they are merely shareholders in the enterprise of slavery that statecraft has become in Nigeria, whether those be Muslims or Christians, no different. The one thing you cannot find in places called the house of God Almighty, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you say that is the house of God and you cannot even speak the truth in the house of God. You love God so much, but you despise his creation. The peak of his creation, man, has become expendable to the point where the agonies of his creation has become the subject of jokes for those who should be held responsible for their plight. They can joke about it. They say, let's move emotion, let the poor breathe. That is the extent of contempt, utter contempt with which those who purport to rule Nigeria treats those they are meant to care for. And then to cap it all, you see the prayers dropping in mailboxes so that they would have nice holidays. Meanwhile, the people are being told on a daily basis to tighten belts that no longer exist. I think some wise man, much wiser and much more temperate than me, said once that it would be extremely wicked, if not evil, to ask a bootless man to drag himself up by his bootstrap. Exactly what is left for the Nigerian and these people who are meant to be the ones governing them are the ones joking about their plight, even though they are the ones who have plunged them into the abyss in which it currently exists. So when you ask me about our objective reality, hope is not something that can be applied in our current realities, because the truth of the matter is that they say that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. I am not filled with any hope about the judiciary of the Nigerian state. And that is about the only thing that is left between us and complete anarchy in Nigeria, because the fact of the matter is that the wanton recklessness with which the Nigerian ruining class is carrying on demands a confrontation, if the truth be told. The only thing is that we must be very careful that that confrontation be not violent. But a line has to be drawn at some point to demand the boundaries of sanity so that we can save tomorrow for our children.
So it's interesting that you raised that concern, because I had already penned it down. I remember seeing that video where the Senate President, Akpabio, had said that, in a mockery format, said that they should let the poor breathe. And his recent video on sending alerts to accounts, then retracting that and saying that, oh no, that he had sent prayers to their inboxes so that their journeys would go well. And I put it back to the realities of Nigerians. A young man was arrested. He's a ride-hailing driver, one of those ride-hailing services. And he said something that, even though he would not blame the government, but the truth is, whatever it is that he's done is a ripple effect from the issues around the fuel subsidy and how the things have increased. So he also now found a way, to rob people of their resources and all of that. And the speed at which he's been arrested, 700,000, that's what he claims that came to him, even though they shared the loot, amongst the three of them, but 700,000 came to him. So I just look at that and I juxtapose that with, the real thing that I believe that has robbed us off, or robbed our pockets dry as Nigerians. And nobody seems to be looking towards that direction to say, how do we solve the problem? You talk about confrontation. There has been a confrontation before, right?
Which one was that?
The one that we went to shut down the toll gate.
NSAS.
We are no longer, we're tired and all of those things. There's been a confrontation. How did that go? So, I mean, if that happened, this is happening, and Nigerians are at that state where a lot of people seem to say, you know what, at this point, I've had it. How do we move forward? Everybody that I know that probably were strong supporters of the Labour Party because of the person of Peter Obi, for instance, every one of them have found passports and work permits and all of those, and they're leaving. I have someone leaving the country tonight, right? So if these people that are supposed to be the one to say, you know what, we're fighting for this and all of that, everybody's leaving, how do we even have faith, or will I call it hope, that anything is going to change in this country? Shouldn't we all just pack our bags and just up and leave?
Let me tell you something about myself. Maybe it would explain where we are looking at things from. Say everyone you know who supported Peter Obi, they've carried their bag, they're either in the process of leaving or they've already left. I remember that we've had a conversation once where the subject of the Nigerian middle class came up. Yeah. And I was very specific in explaining to you that Nigeria is not possessed of a middle class, that you have an existential class, that class is only 1 foot removed from poverty. But that class is the class that has sufficient brain power to be able to find a way out when it sees danger. There are some of us who are stupid enough to remain behind because we can't find a home outside of the shores of Nigeria. So, because they have sufficient brain power, they are able to discern that given the current trajectories of Nigeria, the country is going to implode and their wealth are going to be eroded. So they voted with their feet, right? Now, I come from the disadvantaged. I am not the child of rich people. If I were to have been born in this generation, I probably would have been one of those kids on the street. But for the grace of God and my mother, who was always a determined person, even back then, I wouldn't have had some of the advantages that I garnered, even though the educational system was relatively much, in fact, superior to what we have today. So let's be clear. I can empathize with the man on the street because I know as a fact that if I were to have been born to the same parents at this time, I wouldn't have been any better than any one of the several people for whom I purport to speak, which is why I keep talking. So, I cannot talk about my friends leaving because I could have left at any point in time. That's why I keep saying that those who have brains have fled Nigeria. Those of us who are mad enough to remain, we are either going to confront this system before it kills us, or we are going to be annihilated by this system. The chief taskmaster is the one that has snatched it and grabbed it. The only thing Tinubu knows how to do in the world is how to tax. It is how to take from everybody to give to his own. Nothing more, nothing less. So, those of us who have elected not to leave, and it is not because we do not have the means, it is because I cannot see a future for my children in foreign lands. God has blessed us with this land. It's a blessed land. Why must I flee this land to go somewhere else where I automatically know, I know as a fact, without being told, that I am less than human in the eyes of those who tolerate my presence, or I'm some exotic animal to be tolerated and accepted to prove their Christian charity or their Muslim benevolence. Why should I accept that? Because I actually consider those who have left, I consider them to be cowards. Because instead of going away, why would you leave this blessed place? Why can't we all rise above the idiocies of all these ethno-religious divides. Find the commonalities of our afflictions, and they are obvious enough. In the National Assembly, almost every nationality is represented. And in that National Assembly, I haven't heard one of them come out to speak on behalf of the people. Even the ones that went in on the euphoria of Labour Party have become exactly the same as those who are there. That one that was wearing hat the other day, speaking Dogon Turenchi when he was taking on Festus Iranu, or what was that one's name? It was that same one that was busy walking forward to go and tell the Senate president that he was still on live video or whatever he went to tell him before the monkey turned around and started talking about messages to inboxes. And then, what is the difference between 6 and a half a dozen? So you find very quickly that it is not even about the persons we put there. It is about the system that thinks it is all right. And it is about the people that find it acceptable to tolerate this sort of excesses. They find it acceptable because they find justification in their ethno-religious prejudices and biases. Subject it to the test of normalcy. The truth is the truth is the truth. A thief is a thief is a thief. Akpabio and the National Assembly are essentially a bunch of thieves. I hold responsibility for my words. My name is DELE FAROTIMI and I take responsibility for it. They have demonstrated that if they were any other person, we would call them thieves. This young man, I haven't read the story because what I have done to preserve my sanity is to avoid news. I do my best to avoid news. I avoid news as much as I can. Because when you begin to focus on current affairs in Nigeria, what you find is a nauseating cycle of nonsense. And then you find that because everybody has become acculturated to it, nobody is shocked. And then I'm the one who is perpetually shocked by what I'm hearing or by what I'm reading. So in order to preserve my sanity, I avoid news. The news cycle is lost on me, unless as it affects my calculations and perception of Nigeria. So that somebody killed somebody somewhere for 700,000 is nothing. That happens every day in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. This young man, who is essentially a victim of the system himself, is just fortunate or unfortunate enough to have been caught. That is just the reality. It happens every day across the length and breadth of Nigeria. So I'm not surprised by that. And it's just another one of the many things that happens in our country. You stand before an apple tree and you are demanding oranges. Until you plant your orange tree, you're going to keep getting the rotten apples you're getting.
Okay, so I like that you've just said that because, I mean, there are arguments that every 4 years we have a basket of rotten eggs or rotten oranges, let me put your words, and every 4 years we go to that basket and we pick, select these oranges, or what I call them, from the pool of the basket. And we expect things to change. So someone has described that to be insanity. So the problem is, why don't we go back to the basket and see, how to probably reform those oranges and let them no longer be rotten then, so that whatever we are picking at the end of the day, we're picking right. That's one. Second thing you had pointed out whilst you were talking was taxes, right? When you talked about the president, Tinubu, that's all he knows how to do. But
You call him president, I don't.
Okay. Well, it's our president.
Your president. It's not mine.
It's Nigeria's president.
Until the Supreme Court deemed fit to pronounce him one, as far as I'm concerned, his government is illegitimate and he's not my president. I stand by that.
Okay, so let me just, in the person of Tinubu. Right?
Thank you very much.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So
thank you.
Taxes are things that have made the Western world what it is today. Why we, like you call us the cowards, are moving to other parts of the world. It is because of taxes, right? Is it the taxes in itself, him taxing people, that is the problem? Or it is the method, or it is probably the intent for the tax? Because I need you to be able to break it down.
You see, I've said this to you earlier on. Our problems are foundational. So when you ask one question, you find that I am necessarily forced to go to the foundation of the problem because you're complaining about a fruit. You're not looking at the tree.
True.
Now, taxes are taken from citizens everywhere in the world. And every citizen should be proud to pay taxes. But Nigerians don't pay taxes. We are not taxed. We're levied because we are not citizens. Citizens have a say in their governance. And citizens are served by their governors. Do you understand? So the Nigerian is not a citizen and he is not taxed. Tinubu is the peak of the system Nigeria has created. It's a feudal system that treats the people that should be citizens as serfs. And then there is a privileged class that is above the law. Where you have citizens, there is a respect that is fundamental to the existence of the state because there is the rule of law. Both the governed, the state, and the rulers are governed by law. That is where you have citizens. In a place where the law does not rule, and the law is what those who are meant to uphold the law but do not have laws to uphold says it is, and the courts will do what they are told to do because of pecuniary interest or any other interest for that matter, and you can only be sure that you are unlikely to get justice out of the court, you do not call such a place a country with citizens. Nigeria is a feudal system. We have multiple layers and levels of citizenship, so that is no longer citizenship, that is membership. We have membership of the Nigerian state. So when you now demand taxes from people to whom you owe no service, people that you lord it over, whose interest ranks nothing in your consideration, those are not taxes. They are levies. They are levies. They are not taxes. There's nobody within 100 square meter of this entire we're having this interview in my office here, right? This is Lekki Peninsula, phase 1. There isn't a single government school inside Lekki phase 1. Not one belonging to Lagos State government. Lagos State government built this complex. It didn't start with Bola Ahmed Tinubu now. Some other persons planned this estate, but they planned it, and there isn't a single government school, not primary, not secondary, inside this Lekki phase 1. And it's not just limited to Lekki phase 1, but let's just say Lekki phase 1 as a prototype, because this is a government-built estate, essentially government planned, government allocated. Not one government school inside this place. Not one government hospital in the entire place. So exactly what are the taxes being paid for? You come into these taxes, once you get off the expressway, almost every other road you are seeing are privately paved. What are the taxes being taken for?
So what I hear you imply is, Nigerians as we stand today, we shouldn't be paying taxes.
The fact of the matter is that citizens pay taxes. I'm not saying don't pay taxes. If you believe yourself to be, I pay, but it is in recognition of the fact that I cannot fight a system. If I could fight that system, or if there might be enough of me who understands the connection between taxation and citizenship, then you will get to a point where people would actually look the system in the eye and tell them, I ain't paying because these are not taxes, these are levies. That is the truth. These are people who are necessarily going to have to start putting the chokehold on Nigerians in terms of taxation. They're asking us to tighten our belt. Has anything they've done since this bunch came into office, has it anything they've done suggested to you that they are interested in tightening anything? They are interested in living in opulence, ever-widening opulence. That is what they are interested in, and they are interested in getting more and more of us to pay more and more in order for them to improve their own lifestyle even more than it is already, and receive more prayers in their inboxes. So if the average Nigerian does not understand the connection between taxation and citizenship, they will soon come to understand it, because the way they are going, they are already overtaxing the market women anyway, but they will introduce more. They have no choice. The only way they can maintain their current lifestyle is to tax us to oblivion.
So speaking to trying to correct the system, there are three arms of government. And already, I mean, there was some money that I believe was sent to the Judicial Council, but let me just save that one and just keep it on one side. The what's it called, the National Assembly is supposed to be a checkmate for the government.
Mashiro.
And the ministerial screening, I watched it with very keen interest because
I could have saved you the stress.
right, I kind of like watched it with very keen interest because I was really hoping that we should not hope again, but
What is that all based on?
no, let me not. I don't want to. let me not go there. But I watched it just to have a feel of what we would be expecting under this leadership or whatever it is that we have today. And let me leave my opinions to myself and ask you what you think, because you see that I'm struggling with even how to put it, but
Let me help you.
please help me out.
Let me help
Because when I watched it, I felt like there is absolutely no single way that we will not remain the way we are, if not worse off, for the next.
God forbid. God forbid.
Okay, go ahead. Let me see how that's going to change.
I don't look at episodes, because each one of these multiple episodes of insanities that surrounds the questions and the agitations on the mind of the Nigerian, they might be likened, as I've said before, to fruits. So when I look at the rotten fruits, the fruits don't excite me. I know that the actual problem is the tree. And that tree is the Nigerian governance system. How Nigeria is structured in terms of persons and government, how the state sees itself, how the people themselves sees themselves. Nigeria is a state that is structured to divide the people. So because the people are structured to be divided and the rulers are structured to be united, you find very quickly that the interest of the state, which is self-preservation, the interest of the rulers, which is self-aggrandizement and perversion, and the interest of those they rule are never the same. The state is only ever interested in preservation. The rulers are only ever interested, fortunately, in stealing. So you find that in the midst of all of this, those who are meant to be the primary focus of the state are discounted completely. And then we will now look at what those who are meant to be governing them are now doing and will be complaining. And this is what we're talking about here now. And I would explain. The National Assembly, you say the legislative arm is meant to check. That is in a democracy. That is in a state with citizens. I've already explained to you that these things are foundational. The National Assembly in Nigeria exists at the pleasure of the president. You could see Akpabio. They knew what the plan was ab initio, if you ask me, because that would be the reason why a man who was not even in the primaries would come to the Senate by the grace of the magic that was performed in the Supreme Court, become the Senate president, after having served in Buhari's cabinet,
which was preceded by him having all sorts of thugs of war with the APC because he was in the PDP and he was a thief when he was in the PDP and then became a saint when he came to the APC.
to understand very quickly that you're not talking about a system where normalcy governs exertions. People do things not necessarily because it's sane. So our National Assembly, the legislative arm, quote and unquote, are not what they ought to be. They are merely a gathering of men that have earned the right to sit at the table of impunity, at the head of which sits whoever is the president of Nigeria at any point in time, because those who should be responsible to the people are not responsible to them. So when you're asking what is the role of our National Assembly, is meant to be checkmating, it's not meant to be checkmating nata. It is not meant to be responsible to the people. It is designed to be responsible to the president. You see Akpabio, when he's wearing the peak of his Don's hat, he wears one of those infinity signs that Tinubu carries up and down the place. You see the head of the legislative arm confirming that he is honed, lock, stock, and barrel by the capon that sits inside the rock at Aso. What kind of check and balances do you expect from him? If he decides to be checking too much, they will remember his EFCC file. Once there was Magu carrying that file, and then there was Bawa carrying that file. Somebody else is going to be carrying that file, and if he gets on the wrong side of those in power, they will remember his file. He does not have any immunity. So he will do as he's told, which is one of the things that qualifies him for the seat he sits in. He has a table at the seat of impunity. He's not going to jeopardize that for my interest or for your interest. He will serve his master. And he will proudly wear his Don's hat to advertise who owns him. That is the person he serves, not me and you.
So, I mean, with everything that is going on, definitely governance in Nigeria is quite lucrative.
There is no governance in Nigeria.
Okay, so what do we call
what you have? No. Whether you like it or not.
Like call it rulership or whatever.
No. There is what you have in Nigeria is a criminal capture of the state. From local government level to the presidency is a criminal capture of the state. It wasn't them that started this. Nigeria was always a criminal enterprise. Any state that is not responsible to those who live within its borders is a criminal enterprise. And that is what Nigeria is.
Okay, so let's call it this criminal enterprise that you have called it.
Yeah.
How do we make it less attractive or less lucrative? I mean, there was a speaker.
You can't make it less lucrative. Let me tell you this. I kept saying that there will come a point where we would all have to admit that there will be a confrontation. The duty that the conscious have, those who still, I'll explain it to you, don't worry. The duty that those who remain conscious, their duty is to make sure that that confrontation is not violent. But we have to get to the point, and I'll explain what I mean by a confrontation. There have been multiple times when I have spoken very clearly, and I'm not ambiguous about what I seek in Nigeria. Without a revolution in Nigeria, nothing will change. The same goony goo-goos will continue to run amok. You'll continue to be forced to pick from the basket of rotten apples and oranges that you are picking from. And even if they were clean, by the time they go into the system, because if I must tell you the truth, even that basket of rotten apples and rotten oranges, you are being nice with your imageries. Fact of the matter is that to qualify for governance in Nigeria is almost like you've got to crawl through a sewer. There is no way you're going to be clean by the time you come out at the end of that sewer. People like Peter Obi, and I'm not campaigning for him, he has his public record to speak for him, is an anomaly in our system. And that is the fascination that the people have for him. He is just a token. He's an anomaly that somebody can actually go through this insane system and emerge unscathed. That is the only reason why we all look to him, because it's almost unbelievable that you find somebody going through it. But the reality is that I have known good men. I knew them personally, good people, at least people I thought were good people, who went into governance in Nigeria and eventually they get found out. Is either you had illusions covering them all this while, or they eventually show you that you were silly to have taught them to be anything good. I've seen the one that, look, I don't want, there is no way you speak to them in specific. I've known somebody who became a governor. I've known people who became ministers. I knew somebody who rose to become the vice president of this country. And the reality of the matter is that almost without equivocation, I would have recommended each and every one of them as good men. No man is good. I'm not good. None of us are really good. Only God is good. But at the end of the day, you would come to accept the fact that angels aren't going to come from heaven to govern Nigeria, and we're not going to go recruit people from Togo. But these were decent men. And I see what Nigeria turned them into. That's why I keep saying Nigeria kills and it corrupts. And until you change that system, you can't expect anything good to come out of it because it is structured to destroy. That is the way it is.
So if it is structured to destroy, how do you propose we change the system? Because there's a tree now. That's what you're saying.
You've got to uproot that tree.
So if we uproot the tree, what then happens to Nigeria?
Let me explain something. If I am traveling to Ibadan and I am headed in the direction of Badagry, at some point, I'm going to have to tell myself that however fast I travel, I'm not going to get to Ibadan until I turn around. If we're saying that people are lost, there must be a point where they got lost. If they were lost ab initio, there must be a place from where they were coming. The further Nigeria has run away from the foundational agreements that found Nigeria, the deeper it has run into the mud. Nigeria was not found on a 36-state structure. People keep thinking that the longer they run away from the inequities of our structuring, the better things we get. They are lying. Today, the Yorubas, at least a few of my people, who are unfortunate enough to have bought into the Emilokon, the same Emilokon that has now become Enikan Lomo, the same people today, because you have a Yoruba who has forced himself into the office, what benefit has it been to our people? The people of Kankara, who were being carted away for ransom, were they not from Katsina State? Is Kankara in Ekiti State? So it does not matter where the president of the country comes from. It is about the commonwealth of the people themselves. So if we come to the point where we all understand that we need to look at this system, understanding that it is clearly not working for any one of us, the only thing remaining that the government was doing, besides maintaining people in style, pretending to govern the country, the only thing that remained that he was still doing was fuel subsidy. The same fuel subsidy that they have hitting into the ground today. What is left that the government is doing for the Nigerian? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. How many schools has Lagos State is the richest government in this country outside of the federal government. How many schools, how many classrooms has it added in the last 20, 24 years? How many? Government is doing nothing for the people. The only thing remaining that the Nigerian people are all enjoying, at least at some level, even though they were busy guzzling it, as much as they were busy guzzling it, it was still trickling down at some level to the people. It was more or less like a bribe to the Nigerian people after the abandonment of governance. Now you've taken it away.
Okay, and that's why the young man says because of the subsidy removal, that's why he went into robbery.
Very soon, a lot more would understand that there is no need to go into robbery. They need to confront the system that is forcing them into robbery.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll take a short break, right? When we come back from that break, we'll continue this very intense conversation with DELE FAROTIMI. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. And if you're just tuned in, we're still discussing, having an exclusive conversation with DELE FAROTIMI. So, I mean, it's a very heated conversation, but when we took the break, I kept wrapping my head around that word coward. You called, what I call them, the very fast disappearing middle class, right?
There is no middle class.
Okay, so there's no middle class.
It's an existential class. It's only
Existential class.
one sickness removed from poverty. Just one sickness.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you because even now we're feeling the brunt. It's not even the sickness now. $1 rice. removed
Tell
from
me
poverty.
about it.
That's what we actually.
How many of us are sending our children to school in this system?
In fact, that's where I'm coming to now.
Aye.
Everybody that has left this country, they will tell you that I'm leaving this country not because of me. Like if I want to stay in Nigeria, I can stay in Nigeria and just weather the storm and rough it up. But are we not gambling with
They
the
are
future?
cowards.
Wait now. Okay, let me land. Are we not gambling with the future of our children, given that these criminal, what do you call them now again?
It's criminal state capture.
This criminal state capture players. Let me put it that way. Like
Yes.
you put it, right?
Yes.
They have successfully impoverished the country to the point where their own children are sorted. So us staying behind, leaving our children here, I mean, is it not like taking away the destinies of our own children? Because everybody that has left this country will tell you, I'm not leaving this country because of me. I have my children, their futures to preserve. I have their futures to protect. So when you call us cowards, I'm looking at it, I'm saying that, are you being fair to this existential class?
I'm being generous by calling them cowards. I'm being extremely generous. I have friends my age whose children are fighting them to come back to Nigeria. These children were born in America, in Britain, raised in those places. They only ever come back to Nigeria sometime on holidays. Their parents have done everything to discourage them from coming. But because these children have grown up in a system that has shown them very clearly that they are just a little higher than the dog, in reality, because, you'll find the token black person who will be allowed to excel outside of sport, music, and the creative industry.
And even governance now.
Yeah, you'll find the token ones. The token ones would emerge. But the reality for vast numbers is that if you look at America, for instance, America has developed on the presumption of black slavery. So if they were not in actual chains on the plantation, they are in the prisons where they are routinely sent for the most egregious of infractions. They end up jailed. So you have a prison industrial complex amply staffed by black people. You go to England and you find that, yes, you find the token, but what is the actual reality of the black? Even when they are well educated, even when they are citizens, can they really live the dream? Because institutionally, the system is designed to take care of its own, and they are actually not one of the whole. So, eventually, you find that those who are taking off, believing that they are doing so to preserve their children, would soon have to deal with the problem that those who I'm talking about now are dealing with. I have friends who are in mental health practice in America and in Canada, and they will tell you that the bulk of cases they are treating, in Canada particularly, are young Nigerians abandoned in Canada by their parents who believe that they are making better lives for their children away from the madness of Nigeria. Why do I call them cowards? They are cowards because they've clearly identified a problem or problems, and they are enough to identify in our society. But why has it been beyond their intellectual capacity to understand that if they do not fix this problem, it will not abate? And running away from it does not cure.
So they don't call it running away from it.
Well, so what do they call it? Japa?
No, they call it getting themselves empowered. Now I'll come back
Empowered.
let me land this point, but I'll come back to what you said. You see, the reason those people that are there, your friends, their children are hounding them, that they want to come back to Nigeria, is because the minds of those children have been liberated enough to at least even think for themselves. I'll come to that, because you see, what the this criminal element or whatever it is that you've called them, what they are capitalizing on is the ignorance of people in Nigeria. If you agree with me on that, a lot of Nigerians don't know, so, and they do not even know what to demand for. Even if they were given to say this is a blank slate, demand what you want as a Nigerian. Do you get what I'm saying? They will not know what to demand for.
They are cowards.
No, they will not know what to demand for because they have not been empowered to think for themselves. Their minds have not been liberated. So if you ask me, these people that leave Nigeria, what they are fighting for is the freedom for the children to be able to see the possibilities of even becoming something. So they will not tell you that they are running. They will tell you that they are going there to get their children empowered so they can come back and fix the country. So I mean the arguments can really travel far. But I'm just trying to stand on their behalf. Because everybody will tell you that it's not my child that will gamble.
Cowards. Cowards.
Yeah, that's not fair.
There is always a reason to be quiet. And there is always a reason not to speak the truth. And when you live in an environment where the truth is a rarity, there is always, in fact, you'll find, everywhere you turn, you'll find a reason to shut your mouth. Sure. But it doesn't change the fact that that is the brand of the coward. So let's explain something to ourselves. The same things that they see that leads them to believe that they need to get their children out are the very same things that idiots like me are saying, and we are backing like dogs. Imagine that there were enough backers. Would these monkeys be doing what they are doing? But instead of speaking up, we normalize it by collaboration. So we also steal as much as we can, grab as much as we can, sit on the damn can, and then sometimes we ship the can out and then ship out our children, and then we encourage ourselves by saying that we are preserving them. Preserving them for what? We are preserving them by paying for their enslavement. The other day I was looking, I found a video I was on Facebook, I saw a video. Nigerians who sat on the hull of a ship all the way to Brazil, 4 of them. 2 elected to come back, 2 refused to come back. One of those said he knew that he had nothing left for himself. There was nothing left for him in Nigeria. The guy was speaking impeccable English. Well-educated Nigerian, the lifeblood of our country. They are bleeding out into other lands. These idiots are sat there, they are drinking brandies and whiskeys of over ₦1 million. And you think the slave trade is over. The people we call rulers in Nigeria are essentially slave traders. They do not feel the pain of the people that they govern. But who is meant to educate those who do not know? Is it not those you call the middle class? But how can the people who have elected to run, how do they educate those who do not know? How? If you are running away, who is going to fight to free the country? The middle class is running away when it should be the engine room for the change that is meant to come. The necessary change is meant to be driven by the middle class. What is the purpose of your education if you are accepting of slavery? What is the entire purpose of your education? Look, it is the nature of everybody that is born to die. I don't know why people fear death to the point where they even fear to live, because they are not living the way they are existing. So they run out of Nigeria. Let me tell you something, my sister. The worst kind of life a Nigerian can live are the ones that you find in the diaspora. Let them not cover it with sugar coating at all. You see them dressed like Alubosa Elewe, complete. They are under about 5, 6, 7 layers of clothing. They have to go out there to earn a living, whether they like it or not. 4 o'clock in the morning, some of them are already out on the streets, hustling, doing menial jobs of all sorts. They work harder than those of us who are here, but they are forced to do that because they fled the battle they should have fought. Why can't we all stand our grounds here? Why can't we all understand that it doesn't matter whether you are Igbo, Yoruba, this or that? Our afflictions are the same. just like the beneficiaries of our affliction are also the same. Why is it beyond us? And you expect me to call them anything other than cowards? They are cowards. They are dooming their children and themselves, and they think they are getting it. Where are they getting away from? How many people are going to run?
So I will just touch on a little bit on what you described, and I'll say to you that they will tell you that that is not the picture anymore. Why? Technology has changed a lot of things. So yeah, people go outside of the country, but they don't do those kind of jobs anymore.
Yes.
A lot of people have gotten better.
Yes.
Better at so.
You know why you're saying no? Let me help you with this. Let me just help you with this.
Technology has
What
made life
you are
like,
describing the creme de la creme of Nigeria.
yeah.
The people who should be driving the country with innovations, with ideas, the people who should be building wealth, private enterprise and industry, they are the ones running away. That's the lifeblood of the country itself. So it does not, I'm not suggesting, are those the only ones going? You're talking about the creme de la creme, those who can actually afford to sell houses here, buy houses there, move their children, transfer their wealth. Those are the people you are talking to. Your demography is not the same as mine.
Absolutely.
I know people who are selling their homes to send their children abroad. I just described one. They will send children to Canada without even money. They can't afford to send them money again after sending them to Canada. They're even hoping that that child will be sending money back to Nigeria. Those are the people I'm talking about. Those are the youthful energies, the valves that should be building our country. It's gone. It's draining on a daily basis. Nigeria is bleeding from 1,000 cuts. So those ones, I even hold them more responsible because they know it's their cowardice that is driving them out of Nigeria. And you know the saddest part of the whole thing? I think one of these days I'll compile my epigrams. But there was one I posted some years back. I said, I hope we will not find ourselves in our old age, sat in foreign land and in refugee camps, telling tales of the good old days of the country called Nigeria. I hope so. And we are drawing closer and closer every day. This one that Jaguda is even trying to go into Niger. You find all these things. So we're drawing closer every day, but you can already see it happening. Where are the refugee camps? They are the places they are running to, foreign land. It's Canada, it's England, it's America. And they will sit down there and they will be speaking with nostalgia about the country called Nigeria, because once they've run away from it, I mean, who are they leaving to fight the battle? Eventually, there will be tokenists such as myself and a few others who will be stupid enough to remain behind, and if Nigeria will be lost, it will be lost. But we would have bore witness of their cowardice. So do not ask me to sugarcoat it for them. It is their cowardice above all else that is dooming Nigeria. That existential class is more to blame for the putrefaction of Nigeria than the rather well-thinking, if I may say so, because these people, as useless as they have clear plans and they adhere to their plans. They understand their interest. They protect their own interest. They are very, very good at the protection of their interest. And the Nigerian state is excellent at protecting its own existence. But those who should be in the forefront of educating the average man on the street, so that the average man on the street is aware of his state, the true state of his being, so that he might demand an account from the government, they are busy running away. I don't want to die. I don't want to quench. Mama day for house, Papa day for house. He hasn't stopped. They're still running away, and they're sugarcoating it, calling it they are securing the children, they are securing the children's future. What future are they securing? In foreign lands? The coconut tree was meant to grow in Lagos, not the apple tree. Bring the apple tree, it wouldn't grow. So you are uprooting coconut trees. You are carrying them to Canada, inside cold, to go and grow. It will not grow. It will shrivel.
Wow. That's quite intense.
Just the truth.
So you talked about subsidy removal, that was the only thing that Nigerians were even benefiting from. But now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has come out to say that palliatives will be introduced, and I know some states have introduced palliatives small. I am very, very anti-palliatives, and I'll say why. I believe that where we are today is because of this hand-me-down fish, give-me-fish mentality that it has also stopped the mind from creatively thinking of ways to earn money. So the way I raise my children, for instance, is teach them value. If you have value to give, you understand money will come back in return. But when you introduce a palliative system at that scale, taking away the subsidy and introducing palliative, do you think that will solve any problem? Where do you see that going?
Yet again, we've come back to examining fruits when the problem is the tree. Palliatives. Feudalism thrives on two essential things, and there's a third tripod that supports everything. But the two, weaponized ignorance, weaponized poverty. An ignorant person is doomed to poverty. So when you see a governance system that encourages ignorance, deliberately ensures that the people are kept ignorant, you will know that it has weaponized ignorance, right? I just used the example of Lekki Phase 1 for you, that as large as it is, you would not find a single government school inside there or hospital. How many children of people who service the people who live in not Lekki, assuming the people who, if you can afford to live in Lekki, the assumption is that you can afford private schools. Sure. But what about the people who serves the people who live in Lekki?
There's one right at VI, one government school right there.
That serves almost the entire Etiosa local government if you are within the Lekki Ikoyi VI. How many people can go there? What's the population that can sit in that place? Lekki Phase 1, I don't know the population and I will not care to hazard a guess so that I might not be accused of exaggeration. But I think it would be safe to say that I think Lekki is about 1,000 hectares. My background in real estate, 1,000 hectares would ordinarily give you, an hectare will give you about 10 plots by the time you take out roads and everything. So if you have 1,000 hectare estate, it's safe to say you have approximately like 1 million families living in there. You have all of that. I know Sabi Maso, so anybody else can go and do the math, but it doesn't matter. There are sufficient people living here to have warranted the need for public school, public health facilities. There is none.
Public sporting facilities?
There is none. All the land has been chopped. Everything must be built. So when you are dealing with all these kind of madness, wherever you are looking, how do you now begin to talk about the fruits when you are looking, when you should be looking at the tree? You have weaponized ignorance, and then you have weaponized poverty. And then you want to, poverty that is institutional. You are not giving people electricity. They have to generate electricity with petrol that you have removed the subsidy from. When you say there is subsidy, what is the subsidy? You've not told them. But you've impoverished them deliberately, and then you say you are giving them subsidy, the same type that they were given during COVID. Is there not the same subsidy? The same palliatives rather, that they were given during COVID that became party souvenir. That is the one they are sharing again. That is the one that is meant to replace the only thing that the government was still allowing to trickle down to the poorest and most wretched of Nigerians. They are lying to us. What you see is weaponized poverty at play. The last one that they were sharing, that children were feeding at home during COVID, that minister for disaster, is it the disaster woman, that one? Has that not told you what to expect from this one as well? So why am I supposed to get this? So you know straight away that there are no palliatives.
Absolutely.
For the people.
How do we take back this? Because Niger, we saw what happened in Niger. The military takeover.
Let me say this quickly. Because when you hear me constantly talking about the need for a revolution in Nigeria, I must also be careful to make clear I have absolutely no tolerance for military rule. Zero. Because the way the Nigerian military is today, given our objective reality, if there should ever be a coup in Nigeria today, it will be the members of this same reigning class actively promoting it so that they might cover their track. When I ask for change in Nigeria, it is my hope that if people will find common cause to gather together to demand as a people substantive changes that renders those who govern servants of the people and create citizenship. Because right now, the Nigerian fight is not a fight for democracy. People should clearly understand that what is before them is a liberation struggle. If they do not free themselves and win the right to be citizens, we'll just continue dancing around and around and around because our governance system is not designed to serve citizens. It is designed to serve the rulers. The system understands that there are no citizens to be served. The citizens do not matter. They don't exist. What exists are the rulers. They are the ones who must be pleased at all times.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's so much fun, but we have to bring this
I'm sure.
to a close. Yeah, I mean, Nigeria matter. I actually love talking about Nigeria because, maybe because of my passion, a lot of people have called me stupid. Why are you still in that country?
No, you're not stupid. You're just mad.
I'm a madman.
Yeah, you have to be mad. You have to be mad to live in Nigeria if you can live.
Because it's really like, incomprehensible. Let me use that word, that you are still there and there's all these things going on. But hey, that's where we are. Abia State Governor, the newly elected Abia State Governor, had bought some cars for his House of Assembly members, and they rejected the cars.
Yes, now why shouldn't they reject it? What kind of nonsense car is that? Innocent. Does he not know where they sell Lexuses?
So a lot of people are saying we are suffering from mental slavery, and until we emancipate ourselves from that mental slavery, where we think that we cannot even see value.
Slavery is not mental. It's physical. It's real.
I get you. So, I mean, there's something I want to close with, which was a tweet that you had just posted. You said you actually brought back the tweet you posted in July.
Okay.
And I quite like, I enjoyed reading it. It says, "My grave matters more to me than my bed. I can never lay my bed or have it laid for me. I have no say as to my grave, and it matters more to me than my bed. I will die happily, knowing that I never betrayed my purpose." You can take this to the bank. This is actually very deep, if anyone is listening, because it means that many years from now, you look back and say, yes, whatever it was, I poured out my spirit and I gave it all to the country. A lawmaker in some African country called out the House of Assembly that she was a member of for increasing her salary from, I think, about over $500,000 to 1 point something million, and she was asking them why, bringing back the Constitution to say no. Constitution say we're supposed to serve the people, we're supposed to, and not enrich, and, So when I see things like this, even if we cannot fight the status quo, how do we even try? Because it seems like there's a hollow thing in the chest of some of our leaders. There's nothing there. At least, even if I cannot say anything, if my child is crying, I cannot eat and watch my child hungry. That's human nature. That's just that humanity inside of me will not watch my own child. So how do we begin to elicit this kinds of retrospective, stance point from our leaders? Maybe if we try that approach, the young man that was screened, Dr. Bosun Tijani, and was made to apologize for something that he tweeted out of the passion. And I found that very, I think I would have walked away. I don't know. thank God that they don't call me for these kind of things because I'm not that diplomatic, right? I'll probably have walked away because I did that because of the passion I had for my country. And you now make me to apologize for something that I have suffered for. I don't know how to do that. I know they'll come for me, but I've never been someone that conforms to things. So how do we even start to get people into that space, that mind space? Okay, let's even forget that, Debbie. All this way they chop. To what end is all of this? Like maybe if we put them in that state, maybe we'll just find, in closing. So how did you get to this space? I mean, I know how you got there because it's inside of you. How do we start to replicate, people like you and find a way to just put it in the minds of more people?
Well, there's a song that has been living rent-free in my head for almost 4 days now. Ashake, Lonely at the Top. And all I have to do is remove money on my mind and put purpose on my mind. I think the first thing that must happen if a human being must get to the point of actualization of their true self, they must first of all lose all fears of death. They must come to the understanding of the fact that if you're born, you must die. So if I wasn't born to die, there must be a purpose for my life.
And if I'm still not dead, it
means that purpose has to be pursued. I knew without knowing why that I would stop practicing law once I turned 50. And when people would ask me, even my wife before I was married, and I've been married since 2002, I told her before we were married, that she knew long before our marriage, within 3 weeks of knowing me, anyone would know back then that once I turned 50, I wasn't practicing law anymore. What I was going to be doing, I did not know. When people would ask, I would say I'll write, because that was always a passion. But as the time drew closer, I knew what had to be done. And what has to be done is that this system has to be confronted. And that is the purpose of my life. When I say the system has to be confronted, I'm always very careful to point out the fact that I'm not speaking to violence. But I bear witness against this system. I'm bearing witness against a generation. I'm bearing witness as to what I am seeing. Generations from now, whether Nigeria lives or dies, I pray that it lives for the sake of our children in one form or the other. It's a blessed land, and I do not wish to become vagrants. I don't want to see our people become wanderers, vagrants away from our land all over the place. You find Nigerians everywhere right now, but you rarely find one who would not prefer to be back here if this would work. So the purpose of my life is to preserve this country, or at least this space, preserve it in peace for the coming generation. And if we fail, let at least the coming generation know what normalcy looks like. Let them know that this putrefaction that they see all around is not normal. If those truths have to be told at risk to life, to economy, but it doesn't matter. That is the purpose. The knowledge of that purpose drives me. The knowledge of that purpose makes it worth the while. It makes it... Look, I bought that painting when I went to... I was somewhere in Abuja. So I bought that painting because every time I looked at it in the gallery, it reminds me of the average Nigerian, the pride, the defiance, the readiness to earn a decent, honest living if they will be allowed a place under the sun. If they will be allowed. The average Nigerian just wants a place to stand to work, earn a honest living. But the system does not allow him. I cannot see that and pretend not to see it. I'm not a poor man. I've worked in my life and I've been blessed. I can live.
And I will not leave to go and work anywhere. I will leave. I don't need to work a day in my life.
If I liquidate and get out of this please. But I can't go. If I go, what do I tell my children? That I gave up? I left because of Jaguda Pali and his band of robbers and marauders, all these crazy people who are ruining the country. I left because of them. I would rather stay here and die because of them so that others will know that they needn't run away from them. They should be confronted, not feared. It is that silly fear that is driving this is not normal. We shouldn't normalize this. It is not normal. The fact that you are standing alone to say what is right should not worry you. If anything, it should be encouraged, as long as you are convinced that what you are saying is the truth. Because up till tomorrow now, they will say Fela with it. They will say Fela was an amugbo. In another breath, they will say Fela is a prophet. Abi? The only thing that is constant when you are talking about Fela was his unrepentant penchant for telling the truth. He never shirked. He told the truth constantly. And because the society has refused to change, the truth he told 40, 50 years ago, they are still resonating and they are standing today say, oh, he's a prophet. He wasn't a prophet. He was a truth teller. And we are the cowards who have refused to change. What he said are still true today because we haven't changed. So I can keep backing from now until whenever I drop dead myself, just like Fela has dropped. The only thing that I know is that as long as what I have said are the truth, I would have lived well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a really good way to wrap it up.
Thank you.
We're still hopeful. Nigeria definitely, is our land. We have nowhere else to go. And we'll keep bringing these conversations to you. Remember, follow us across all our social media handles, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Thank you so much, DELE FAROTIMI.
It's a pleasure.
Definitely, always a pleasure to have you and, speak with you.
Thank you.
This was a fantastic exclusive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was able to get a lot off my chest.
Yes, I think so.
I deliberately stayed away, kept quiet. Yeah.
I see that.
The burden really lifts, but the one thing is that every opportunity to speak is also an opportunity to bring light. Truth is like a sword, it pierces, right? Cuts. So if I have lied, those who have heard would not have lied. And if I've told the truth, they know that I've also told the truth. And if it's the truth, it's either they are embracing it or they are rejecting it. The Muslims have a beautiful word for it, munafiqs. Those who know the truth but reject the truth. They can go ahead and reject it. That's their call.
Well, you heard what DELE FAROTIMI had to say.
Oh, we're still on?
Yes, so. Enjoy. See you next time.